This is Lightning Power Lunch, presented by Reef Rum on the Lightning Audio Network with Dave Mishkin and Greg Linnelli.
The fact that we scored right away after they, took the lead, I thought that was a big thing for us. We didn't have to chase the game, get the two quickies in the second, and then you take advantage of a team that played a pretty emotional game the night before. That's your job. That's what they did.
Another impressive win. No, Brandon Hagel did not get a hat trick. That was fun.
Did they not announce the goal change in the building? Those were a lot of hats that came on the ice. And look, the enjoyment of throwing your hat on the ice maybe offsets the pain of knowing that you spend money on a hat that is no longer yours for a player who did not actually get a hat trick. But I don't know. Did they announce it in the building?
I don't know.
It was a sneaky change. It was in between the second and third.
I think we were shocked when they did make the change initially. I was like, really?
Yeah, it looked like Cirelli put it in.
Really? But, Chief said, I don't know if it was on air or off air last night on the last call, but he said he talks to some people about what do you do with those hats? And he said, we put them in a garbage bag. We basically keep them for a little bit in case somebody wants to come down and claim them. And then if it goes a certain time, then they give it to charity.
Would the people even know where to go to claim them?
I don't know.
When you say down, where is down?
I don't know.
Get access to wherever down is?
Who knows? Maybe in the dungeons somewhere.
Yeah. It's not like you can just walk around the concourse at Benchmark
Santa Claus
International
have a
Arena.
Big garbage bag with hats. Where are you going? Where are you going with that? So, but overall,
yes,
just another good performance by the Lightning. I think we talked about the Sharks' second game of a back-to-back, so maybe there were some challenges there. But the Lightning first game back from a road trip's a challenge too. So I think that's a wash in some ways. The Lightning just another good defensive outing where they don't give a ton at this point. I mean, sure, the Sharks had some moments. They kind of made a super line with a lot of their high-end picks late in the game to try to generate some juice there. But, I mean, all in all, tough to complain, partner, again, about what this Lightning team's accomplishing. And a pretty methodical win last night against a pretty good San Jose team.
Yeah, San Jose had a much better showing last night
They did.
than in early January in San Jose. And you know what, Greg? I understand what Coop is saying. Like, they did have an emotional game the night before. They had a big road win. They had a goalie fight. Like, all that is true. I thought they brought energy through the game, maybe up until the last 10 minutes. The last 10 minutes of the third period, the Lightning really leaned on them. But the first 10 minutes of the third period, the Sharks had some ozone time. They just didn't get anything from it. And I think in the first period, they had jump in their step. I mean, that was a fairly even first period.
Yeah.
Like a little bit of back and forth. But what you said at the top is absolutely true. Doesn't matter if the Lightning are facing a team with one of the top scorers in the NHL like they were last night, or facing just an all-around, let's say, solid team like Dallas Stars, who maybe don't have a guy in the top 5 in scoring, but they have, the power play goal leader in the NHL, Wyatt Johnson, who scored in the power play last night for Dallas. A very, very solid team. Or maybe a team that we'd say, the Lightning really have an edge in this game and they should take care of business. Or they're facing the top team in the league. They have a win against Colorado during the point streak as well. It doesn't seem to matter who's on the other side. The Lightning are doing what they need to do to limit scoring chances against. So last night, the super line that you referred to was Celebrini along with Will Smith, and they started the game with Colin Graf, who's another college player, not a high draft pick. They signed him as a free agent.
Right.
The Sharks did. But he's a good player. He's a very good player. In fact, he had a chance. The first save that Vasilevsky had to make was a tough save on Graf, where he kind of got open at the circle and went far side, and Vasi kicked it out with his right skate. In the third period, they swapped Graf for Michael Misa, who we talked about on the show yesterday, a number 2 overall pick. Smith is a number 4 overall pick. Celebrini was first overall. So that is a super line. Misa did not have a shot on net. He was with those other 2 guys in the third period. Graf was with them in the first 2, mostly the first 2. Celebrini had 5 shots. Smith had 2, and Graf had the 1. 8 shots. That line contributed 8 shots. How many of those 8 were super dangerous? Maybe the Graf one was the toughest save that Vasi had to make. My point is that, like, you look at the stat sheet at the end of the day, and you're like, okay, well, the Lightning held Celebrini without a point. That's an accomplishment, but how dangerous was he? I didn't think he was overly dangerous, even though he ended up with 5 shots on net. A couple may have come on the power play. I'm not sure. They had 2 power play shots in the second period. The point is that, you know, whether the Lightning are facing Macklin Celebrini or Nathan McKinnon or Sidney Crosby or pick a player, Wyatt Johnston, Mikko Rantanen, top players on the other team are being foiled. They are not being able to do what they are doing most of the year against most other teams. And again, it was the Gord line with Moser and Radish that saw the bulk of the work against Celebrini and company. Celebrini, Smith, and whoever else was out there. Now, there were points that Celebrini and company had the puck. Like, this wasn't a game where the Gord line just had the puck the whole game. There were shifts where the Gord line did have to, like, defend without the puck in the defensive zone. But what did they give up? Virtually nothing.
Right.
I mean, the best scoring chance the Sharks had wasn't even their goal, which was a lucky bounce off Tyler Toffoli. It was Ryan Reeves on a breakaway in the third period that was fueled from an offensive zone turnover by the Lightning. That was their best chance, and that may have been their best chance by a wide margin. A wide margin. Maybe the Graf look, which was kind of a one-on-one. It wasn't an odd man. He got open. He took a shot. I mean, it was a fairly difficult save for Vasilevsky. That was it. Sharks finished with 23 shots and only 44 shot attempts. That is low. So the Lightning won this game again with defense. There were other key plays. Second game in a row, the Lightning gave up the first goal and answered quickly. Just like in the Dallas game, last night it was even quicker. It was 33 seconds later. Coop talked about that. Big response. The way the Sharks wanted to script this game, because they were playing the second half of a back-to-back, play with the lead. Well, they got the lead. They didn't keep the lead. 33 seconds later, it was a tie game. And then not long after, the Lightning went goal early in the second and forced the Sharks to play from behind, which was big. So the first 4 goals in the game of the 5 that were scored came in bunches. Sharks, Lightning, 33 seconds apart. Lightning, early in the second. What was it, about a minute and a half apart, I think. Yeah, just under a minute and a half apart were the goals for Cirelli and Gensel. 3-1. And, you know, there was a lot of hockey still to be played. The Gensel goal came just over 3 minutes into the second period. So, I mean, you've got, 36 minutes plus left to play. The Lightning they just locked it down. It wasn't as much of a lockdown third period as they had in the Dallas game. That was like textbook. 2 shots for the Stars, and that was it. The Sharks had a little bit more ozone time in the third period. I thought it was more in the beginning part of the third period, and they had the Reeves breakaway in the third period. But it was very, very good. Like, the Lightning's final period and a half plus was quite good. That allowed them to basically say to the Sharks, you're not coming back in this game. So there were several key plays along the way. The tying goal was 1. The 2 quick goals in the second were 2. And I think the Vasilevsky save on Reeves was a big play. Because if Reeves scores there, Sharks make it 3-2. They have a little life. There's probably about, 7-8 minutes left. Maybe they get a little momentum and juice and muster a way to tie the game. Didn't happen. And, when they pulled the goalie early. What did they get? Bupkis. They didn't get anything. When the puck came into the Lightning's end, they cleared it right out. Before the empty net goal was scored, the Lightning, Gord had a shot. I mean, the Lightning almost scored an empty net goal before they did score the empty net goal. Yeah. So, again, the Lightning handled the 5-on-6 very, very well. Didn't really give up anything, even though the Sharks had the extra guy on the ice.
One of the biggest bugaboos, Cirelli, right, banged up a little bit last night. I
mean, if you read between the lines, Coop didn't seem overly concerned, but we'll have to monitor that situation.
We will have to monitor that. I thought Dominic James, once again, stood out, and his line stood out. That is something to kind of monitor as we talk about top 6. I think you and I have definitely thought, and this was probably pretty early on in Dominic James's professional career. We liked him in a top 6 if he got that opportunity. I think the question for him was just getting the opportunity and filling the net a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think he's starting to show why that logic makes some sense.
And he likes to shoot. I mean, he's had
Yeah.
some assists here. Yeah, that was an assist on the Gensel goal. It was a great pass.
Right.
But he does look to shoot when he has an opportunity to shoot, which is, I think, one reason why Phil likes him so much. This is what we saw from the get-go with James. And now that we've seen more of him, particularly in these last couple of games, he's playing more. He's playing in the middle, which, I mean, he was kind of in the middle playing with Finley and Bjorkstrand, but Finley sometimes took faceoffs. But you're really seeing it playing with Gensel in these last 2 games. Dominic James is fast, but he's also fast with the puck. So he is not, I'm not comparing him to this other player and saying he's like this other player. This other player is in a class by himself. That other player is Connor McDavid. There's nobody like Connor McDavid in the NHL who can skate as fast as McDavid can skate and handle the puck at the same time.
Lightning announcer compares Dominic James then.
What I'm saying is the quality that makes McDavid extraordinary in this just one area. He's extraordinary in other areas too. But like some players can skate fast. McDavid can skate fast with the puck and make moves with the puck. He's not just going in a straight line. He shifts with the puck. He makes a move around a guy, and he's going at top speed. James has that in him. You see him do that when he accelerates from the defensive zone. There's a defender looking to slow him up in the neutral zone. He just makes a little move. Whoop! He's around him, right? Think of like a running back in football with elusibility, right? Is that a word? Who's elusive?
It is now.
Yeah, I may have messed that up. But you know what I mean? Like Barry Sanders back in the day. You just make people miss, right? McDavid has that. You can't really slow up McDavid because he can just make a move and get around you. And he can make a play at top speed. James has that in him. We're seeing that. He's very difficult to slow up through the neutral zone because he combines speed and that elusiveness. That's a word. I know that.
That is a word.
Yeah. Very impressive. And look, everything else, like he plays extremely hard. He's a puck hound. He's got great hockey IQ instincts. That pass to Gensel, it was like boop, off his stick, right on Gensel's stick for a one-timer. The Sharks were caught out of position. We talked about this when the Lightning gave up a goal to Dallas, which was, in a way, kind of similar in that the puck got rimmed around the boards and it got disrupted. In the Lightning's case, Nick Paul was unable to get it out. He got stripped. Last night, it was the goaltender, Askarov, who tried to rim it around the boards, and Vincent Desharnais, it kind of handcuffed him. It was a tricky play. But because Desharnais is thinking, okay, I'm getting to the boards here to try and accept a pass and deliver an outlet, the Sharks are thinking breakout. They're not thinking set up defensively. So once the puck gets turned over, everybody has to scramble to the right spot, and there's some confusion. It was Toffoli got to Gensel late. But it's kind of hard to blame Toffoli, right? Like Toffoli is not thinking that he has to watch Gensel in front of his own goalie. He's thinking the goalie is rimming it around the boards. He's trying to get open to make himself available as an outlet. So that's why those turnovers in the defensive zone can lead to problems right away, because the defending team is not really in position to defend what might come after the puck is turned over. But James has to make the play there. If James hesitates, Toffoli gets to Gensel. There was no hesitation from either player. Gensel one timed it in, too. Askarov really didn't have a prayer on that.
You mentioned Desharnais. He actually falls down on the first goal. If you watch that play closely.
On the Hagel goal you're talking about.
On the Hagel, yeah. So he tried to come over, and as he's coming over, I don't know if he got tied up or he just fell.
Yeah.
That allowed the separation in the room for the Lightning to manufacture that play. So, just, small little detail. I don't blame him necessarily. I just think sometimes that does happen, but he does go down.
The first domino to fall in that play was Sam Dickinson, who's another high draft pick by the Sharks. I think he was 11th overall. He has the puck come to him. He's trying to go D to D to Desharnais. And we often say this, like the puck literally exploded off his stick. I'm not quite sure what happened, but it didn't go where he wanted it to go, and it came right to Kucherov. And now again, the Sharks are a little bit in scramble mode. That was a bit of a bad bounce, honestly, on Dickinson, but he has to own the mistake. But each team got a bounce, right?
Sure.
Because Toffoli's goal was off a bounce too.
It was, and I thought Vasi, when called upon, was once again fine. They're getting this wave of good defensive play, and then when there are some breakdowns, they are finding ways to make saves, which is a big deal. Kucherov, a couple assists, actually three.
Yeah.
You kind of.
I heard the last call. There was some confusion there about who was looking.
JP was looking at it. Brian was looking at it.
I think JP was looking online, saw the assist was changed. So Kuch is now third in the scoring race. So he's ahead of Salabrini by a point.
I keep saying this: is it the quietest third place, just because it doesn't get a lot of hype as some other guys, but so be it. I think Kucherov is used to that. The other thing too, just to be cognizant of, on the Sharks' lone goal, it did come off a face-off loss, correct?
Yes.
So
another tough night in the circle for the Lightning. I mean, it finished 28-22. Wenberg was really.
What did Finley finish? Because it did feel like they were putting
at
out
one
there
point
in
he was
specific
0-3.
situations.
Yeah, I don't have the game sheet in front of me.
He
was 0-3. He did end up winning a face-off, but so what happened in the first period, we have talked about this a lot. The Lightning have, other than Finley and Point, who's currently hurt, all their centers are lefties. So if you have a face-off in the defensive zone to the right of the goalie, that centerman is going to be at a disadvantage. Andrechuk, who did the game with me last night, by the way, Phil is doing okay. Like, he had to miss last night's game, but doing well. But thanks, Andy, for sitting in. So Andrechuk has some experience taking face-offs. And he's like, when you're on your weak side, it is harder to win face-offs. We've talked about the challenges of winning a face-off on your weak side. So and I'm saying defensive zone, because these are the important face-offs. Defensive zone face-offs, offensive zone face-offs are just more important than neutral zone face-offs. So defensive zone face-offs, doing well, might help prevent a scoring chance. Offensive zone face-offs, if you do well, may create a scoring chance. So that's why they are more important. We saw a goal against right off a face-off last night scored by the Sharks. So what happened in the first period, Coop is trying to throw some spaghetti at the wall and see what can work, because we've gone through more than half a season and the lefties have struggled on their weak side, which is not a great surprise. I mean, as much as Julian said, these guys are below their career averages, they're also being asked to take harder face-offs than in past years. But all of them, other than Nick Paul, are under 50%. That includes Point, who is a righty, but he's currently out. So Coop's like, all right, if we have a face-off to the right of the goalie in the defensive zone, let's send Finley out. See how he does. He's at least on the strong side. Well, he lost 2 in the first period, and the second led directly to the goal. Now, was it his fault that the puck went in off Tyler Toffoli? No. But what did I just say? If you lose a face-off in your own end, you're opening the door for something potentially bad to happen. It's not like you need to go like 95% on D-zone face-offs. Like, you can lose a fair number of D-zone face-offs and have nothing happen, right? But that one was particularly noticeable because it came as Coop was like trying. He's like, maybe we can start leaning on Finley to take faceoffs on the strong side in the defensive zone. Because we've talked about like acquiring a player, right? With Lightning, acquire a righty to take the faceoffs in this specific situation. Well, if Finley can do the job, then you can kind of check that off the list. Well, Coop tried it last night, and it didn't last past the first period. I can tell you that. I can look and see what his final numbers were. In the first period, he was 0-3, and Andrechuk noted that. I mean, Andrechuk and Tim Taylor they played on the same line, but they were John Tortorella's security blanket during the 2004 Cup season. In that, if it was a defensive zone face-off, He had two reliable guys who could take. Andrechuk took it if it was to the right of the goalie. Taylor took it if it was to the left of the goalie. You had both bases covered. Does that mean that they won every single faceoff? No, but they were able to win enough that it neutralized what the other team was trying to do for the important faceoffs, like the key draws, end of the game. You're up one. They both killed penalties. That's why they were such an important part of that cup team, beyond the fact that, you had the captain and one of the alternates. Like, what they provided was less about putting the puck in the net and more about, situational play in many regards. All right. What was Finley? Finley
20%, 28%.
2 and 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Finished in 5. Okay.
So.
Not great.
Not great. I mean, he was 2 and 2 after the first period because he was 0 and 3. It just tells you, like, they didn't have him take a lot of faceoffs.
Well, and they also put him out there and like, they had him on, then they took him off. They were trying to win an important faceoff.
Yeah.
And I feel like when that happened, those specific times he didn't, and I'm wondering if that's why he got less opportunities to go out there.
Well, and it may have been a short-lived experiment.
But to our point, I think they're trying to find something here.
Yeah.
Now, Andrechuk, to your point, also said he would like to see the centerman tie up.
Andrechuk did say that. That was during the penalty kill.
Yes.
Because they had lefties out there. They
Yeah.
had Sorelli and Gord, and they were losing faceoffs. I can actually look and see. So the Sharks, they had a second period power play, and they had a lot of zone time, and they zipped it around, and they finished with 2 shots on the power play. I'm not sure that either was like a tremendous grade A chance, but they did go 2 for 3 on power play faceoffs on that one power play. So I remember, I think the Lightning lost the first 2, and then they were able to win the third one, which got moved to the other side, if memory serves. I think the third one, whether it was Gord or Sorelli, I can't remember which one took it. Maybe it was McPaul. That player was on his strong side, if I'm remembering correctly. I may not be, but makes a difference.
Yeah. It does. No doubt about that. We can get some questions. Anything else that you wanted to take from that game? It's funny. Our conversation was almost an extension of what we discussed on the last call, not only yesterday, but various shows. And Brian really was diving deep into what's the back end going to look like. And, when guys do come back, because Carlisle takes that vicious hit.
Yes.
Right. And
we the Lightning got lucky there.
Dodged a bullet, but, we were saying, how good he has looked, playing and just, the totality of it all. But I don't know if the right question is who's playing when everybody is healthy. I mean, that will be part of the discussion.
Yeah. I heard you guys talking about that.
I don't think
the Stu
I don't think Stu comes out. I think that lessens the options. I just don't.
But like last night, so thank goodness Carlisle was able to come back in the game, but stuff happens.
Yeah,
we
are
still a ways away from everyone coming back.
We are.
Lilleberg, Hedman, and McDonough are all skating. Yeah. Hopefully, at least one, and maybe more than one, can come back before we have the Olympic break. The initial expectation for Lilleberg, though, was after the Olympic break. So, I mean, this is not imminent. When we say everybody is back healthy, and by the time those guys come back and are able to play, we may have other injuries. We could have had one last night.
For sure. And
for the
point of making this conversation.
Flexibility for Carlisle.
Yes. Well, thank goodness, because I pulled a grain just watching what he did. I mean, that was painful. So you're absolutely right. The chances everybody's healthy at the same time, just from what we know, is probably slim. But for the sake of the experiment, I don't know if the question's more about who's in, as does everybody go back to their typical role?
Mm-hmm.
And the point was, does Radish and Moser end up just taking, not only staying together, but the tough assignments?
Well, I think for sure they stay together.
Yeah.
I don't know about the tough assignments. So we actually have a little bit of a sample size here, Greg, because since Moser and Radish have been together as a pair, we've seen both Hedman come back for 2 games plus a period, and McDonough come back for 3 games. I think McDonough played 3 games. So when Hedman came back, they had him with Crozier on the third pair. Now, he'd missed a fair amount of time, right? And he played the 2 games, and then he played a period. in Montreal and pulled himself out. So they had Victor as the third pair, lefty D, playing with Max Crozier. Because at that point, you still had Lilleberg healthy, I believe. I'd have to go back and look. These games are kind of running together. I think Lilleberg was healthy. Lilleberg was playing with Destu, and Moser was playing with Radish. Hedman then goes back out. Soon after, McDonough comes in. At that point, Lilleberg was injured. So they put McDonough with Destu, kept Moser and Radish together, and at that point you had, again, if I'm remembering right, Crozier and Carlisle, who have been a pair for quite some time. So when they had McDonough and Destu, it wasn't for long, but I do believe they had them more in a matchup situation. But then you're playing kind of with house money, because maybe you want McDonough, let's just say McDonough and Destu, because Chernak was still out at that point. If it's McDonough and Destu playing as a pair, and they're your shutdown pair, maybe you get that matchup, but maybe you don't. Maybe there's an icing, right? You can't get the matchup. Maybe you're on the road. Well, you have Moser and Radish, right?
Yeah.
And they've been doing the job. So I think it's kind of a win-win, depending on how they want to work the lineup. Your point about Destu, though, is correct. Destu is not coming out of the lineup. Not for, like, coach's decision or anything like that.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And so it's fun.
And they could go 7D. I mean,
it's always a possibility.
That is not some, like, strange foreign concept for John Cooper.
It is not. It is not. Let's go to some questions here as we move through this. EspoCon99, James was flying last night. The assist on the Gensel goal was a beauty. Once he sees a couple more pucks go in, they will fall like dominoes.
Well, he's seen a couple of pucks go in. I mean, he scored 2 games ago in Dallas. I think it's helped his confidence. You can see he's playing with that swagger that we saw in camp, preseason, and the start of the year until he got hit in the face. And then, it was a setback for him. It was a physical hurdle to get over and a mental hurdle to get over, according to what he said.
Sure. Alan says the team keeps on rolling. The Gord line, most impressive with each game. I think Gensel and James are showing real chemistry. Vasi's played his way into the Vezina talk. Ooh, the Vezina. I love the Vezina.
Well, look, I am not going to disagree with any of that, except I will take a little bit of exception with the first point, saying the Gord line is getting more impressive each game. I think that they've been impressive from their first shift together.
Has that been the biggest surprise this year? How well that line has been, the collective of those players? Yeah. Wow.
I think when they acquired Holmberg, or signed Holmberg because he was a free agent, I think their feeling was, okay, he's going to replace Glendening and play with Gergensons. Even strength, penalty kill. The reality has been that he has not replaced Glendening because he's not taken hardly any faceoffs. He is the center, Holmberg. But he has not taken, like, not even in the vicinity of the number of faceoffs that Glendening took, for obvious reasons. We've talked about Holmberg's another lefty, and he really hasn't killed penalties. The Lightning have their rotation of forwards on PK. It's Hagel, Cirelli, it's Gergensons, Gord, and then if they have to go to the third grouping, it's usually Gensel, Paul. Now, sometimes some of those forwards may get elevated if there's an injury or maybe one of the other guys is in the penalty box, right? Then that changes. But Holmberg, it's rare to see him kill a penalty. So his role is way different than maybe what we expected. And I don't know if anybody expected that the 3 players would have the chemistry that they have had. And they didn't get a lot of time together during camp because Holmberg sustained an injury during camp. And then into the regular season, Gergensons missed whatever it was, the first 7 games from that Florida preseason game where Verhaeghe hit him. So it wasn't until actually the Lightning started 1-4-2. In game 8 was the game in which Gergensons made his season debut, and that line was put together, and they have just had it rolling from the get-go. The number of subpar games that line has had, like, you can count on one hand and not use all of these fingers that I'm holding up. Now, Holmberg missed a little bit of time, too, during the regular season, so it's not like they've played Whatever the Lightning played, 48 games. It's not like they played 48 games together. They haven't. I just said Gergensen's missed the first 7. I think Holmberg missed 7 later. So subtract 14. The other 34 games that they've been as a line, they've had a tough night as a line in maybe 2 or 3.
Yeah.
The rest of the time, I mean, they haven't always like carried play for the Lightning and led them to victory, but they have impacted the game in a positive way. And the best way that they can impact the game is make the other team work in the defensive zone. But they've also chipped in offensively. I think Chief mentioned on the last call last night, the 3 players have combined for 20 goals this year. That's great. From a third line, because they really are the third line. Maybe at the beginning of the year we would have thought they were the 4th line, but they're not. They're the 3rd line. They're the matchup line. They're filling the role that Gord, Goodrow, and Coleman filled in the Cup years. Different line. Gord, Coleman, and Goodrow did not cycle the puck and grind down teams like the Gord, Holmberg, Gergensen's line.
They could, but they had more offense.
They had a different
They had more
feel
offense.
to it. Yeah.
They did.
Holmberg, I'm just going to say, Holmberg is the one who makes that line. I'm not sure I've seen another player who can take a puck and do what Holmberg does with the puck like Holmberg in the NHL. I'm sure those players are out there. I just don't see them on a regular basis. But one reason why that line is able to have the puck in the offensive zone is that Holmberg usually is involved, if not doing most of the work, some of the work, of getting it to an area where they can do their stuff and cycle. Yeah. And they're in sync. Like they kind of know where the other one, like they support each other. They put pucks in areas where a line mate can go get it, but they have to get it into the offensive zone.
Sure.
And Holmberg is usually involved at some point in getting the puck and bringing it to an area where they can get it into the offensive zone and go to work. I mean, Andy said last night in the broadcast, Holmberg is so strong on his skates. He's also strong on his stick.
He's a strong player.
He's a strong player.
I think that's what we're saying. And now he's starting to score a little bit. My goodness. Mm-hmm. I mean, what in the world is going on here, partner?
Remember in preseason, people were like, the Lightning need to get an enforcer. And I mean, I don't mean to be.
Well, they did.
You know, but that was what we heard from the fans. Yes, and they did. But they were like, you know, why did they sign Holmberg? You know, like people wrote us on the show. Like, why did they go on? Yeah, they need a Tom Wilson. Well, like Tom Wilsons don't grow on trees, right?
I take a Tom Wilson.
So everybody would like a Tom Wilson. The Lightning coming off back-to-back playoff losses to the rough and tumble Panthers. I think it's understandable that some of the fans who follow the Lightning were like, the Lightning needed to address more toughness. And look, they added Sabourin. And they added Douglas. So they did that. At the time we were getting these comments, though, I think the fans didn't really recognize what kind of player Sabourin was, and they hadn't gotten Douglas yet. And what I said, I didn't know Holmberg as well as I know him now watching him play, but I remembered it registered with me that he was a really good defensive forward when the Lightning played the Leafs. And I'm like, I think the Lightning fans are going to like Holmberg. But he was hurt in preseason, so we didn't really see him until the final game. He didn't play in a preseason game until that brouhaha against the Panthers. And Gergensen's got hurt in the first period. They barely played together at all. But I'm glad that, you know, what I said at the time, I mean, it's certainly come true. I think Lightning fans are more than happy with Holmberg. They're thrilled that this guy is wearing the Lightning's jersey and part of this line that is just... I mean, I don't know if the opposing coach is going to circle the Gord line when they game plan, but they should. They're like, if you're out against this line, you may get stuck in your own zone. We need to figure out a way to make this line play without the puck. Because if they get the puck, we may not be getting it back until there's a whistle. What a huge benefit that is for the Lightning to have.
I would agree. Michelle says, no, they did not announce it in the building that I heard, meaning the Hattie or the change in the goal. Jim says, hope Anthony Cirelli is okay, mostly for the Olympics. Mark says, another late round gem for Tampa, hopefully. Gotta love it.
Who's the late round gem?
I think he's referring to, you probably can pronounce that plaer a lot better than I can.
Rautiainen. Yeah.
Rautiainen, there you go. I guess he's having a
Well, we saw him in the
huge
prospect tournament. Yeah. Maybe it's Rautiainen. I didn't do the prospect.
You can call him Rody.
That was a Dave Randorf special. So I'll have to check with Dave about the pronunciation. He didn't come to camp, though, so we didn't get his pronunciation.
Yeah.
It's either Rautiainen or Rotiainen. Tomato. Although who says tomato anyway? Really?
I've
on this
never
side
heard
of the
anybody
Atlantic.
say tomato. Have you ever heard of anybody say tomato?
And people say, like, you say
Who
tomato,
says it?
I say tomato. Maybe in London they say that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I like a bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwich.
Tomato sandwich. I said,
anyway,
what is that?
Whoever is deciding how to pronounce the guy's name, he is having a very, very good year over in Europe. Yes. He had a pretty good prospect tournament, that development showcase, whatever they call it. That's probably not the right word. The one that happens in July, right after the draft.
Ben says Holmberg was a sneaky great signing. Not a lot of hoopla when it happened, but the type of depth guy that can lead to a long run this summer.
Now, maybe Holmberg wouldn't be as, I'll use this word, effective if he weren't playing with Gordon and Girgensons, which he wasn't in Toronto. But I have to ask this question. It begs the question. Don't you think Toronto would like a guy like Pontus Holmberg back on their team based on what he can do?
You would think, right? I mean,
you would
come
think.
On.
Yeah.
You know? I think, to be fair, those are the type of players that can hurt you if you get it wrong on the contract.
Yeah.
That's the issue. It's not so much he's not a productive player, although I think from what you were saying, Toronto wanted to see a little more finish.
And it was a different GM.
So
different GM drafted this guy.
You know what? Look, I think if you're Toronto also, though, too, this happens in sports. Sometimes, guys just develop better somewhere else.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's why
happens.
I said maybe it's making a difference who he's playing with the Lightning.
Good.
Yeah.
I mean, Girgensons also has been really good. And I think Yanni Gourde is just a different player than what he was a few years ago. But he still brings that energy, and I think you like that. Kyle basically saying the same thing. That line just keeps getting better and better. They're going to be a problem in the playoffs.
For the other team, they're going to be a problem in the playoffs. But let's not jump too far down the path here. Yes, we hope the Lightning get in the playoffs, but they still have a lot of work to do.
Mark says Dominic James has looked really good the last couple of games. I thought he was one of our best players last night, especially.
So when fans say, this player looked really good, so they're the obvious plays like the pass to Gensel. And then he was active on a shift in the offensive zone in the first period where, I think he had 3 shots on the same shift. He just barely missed one that went over the net. But I think fans who are following the game notice when a guy accelerates through traffic into and then out of the neutral zone and into the offensive zone. And that's what James has in his game. So it's not like play away from the puck. Like, this guy has the puck. The camera's on him. You can see what he's doing. He's making a move and getting loose and doing it with speed. Celebrini does that too. That's one reason why Celebrini is a huge problem for the other team. He's got immense skill. I don't think that he's really showed it yet in the games that he's played against the Lightning. But if you watch some of the highlights that he's had,
right,
especially this year, you can see he's got it in him. But he is, no pun intended here, lightning fast and can skate fast with the puck and make plays with the puck at speed.
I get it. I think he also, that puck comes off his stick pretty quickly.
You're talking about Celebrini or James?
I'm sorry, James. Probably Celebrini too.
Yeah.
But James, I think we're specifically talking about him a little bit. Chris says our decor are shutting down all the top players. That's a collective effort. There's no doubt about it. But is it fair to say, at least for me, I haven't seen this stretch of good team cohesive play defensively from a Lightning team in a while. I do feel like everybody is in sync. You're seeing numbers where there's 5 shots a period, 6 shots a period.
Yeah.
And some of it's they're playing with the puck too. I think you have to factor that all in. But this sustained level of excellence defensively, I think, has been just one of the more remarkable things.
That's why I
we've
said. That's why I said on Monday's show. I think I said it, that this run has the vibe of what the Lightning did in the 2019-2020 regular season, where they went on that incredible stretch. Now they've also done it in the playoffs. The playoffs are a different animal. Like if you're holding a team to 19 or 20 shots in the playoffs and in a closeout game, that's a whole different level. But if we're just going to compare regular season to regular season, I do remember that 23-2-1 stretch. The Lightning were like locking teams down. They really had things click into place after a little bit of a wobbly first couple of months. Their first month was wobbly. They went to Sweden and swept the Sabres in early November. And I thought that was an important, I mean, not just me, you can talk to any of the players on that team. That was a very important trip for them in terms of coming together as a team, and they won both games. They came home, and it was a weird stretch from like early November to Christmas. In that stretch, the Lightning won some games, and then they had other games where they should have won and lost. So cosmetically, their record was worse than how they were playing. But they went into Christmas with a hammering of Florida. They beat Florida, I think, like 6-1 going into the holiday break. I think that was the first win in the 23-2-1 stretch. And from that point on, it just clicked into place. Like when they outplayed the other team, they didn't lose. They won. I may not be remembering it exactly right. I just remember like they dominate a team and the other team would make one play and the puck would go in. And, you know, they lose by a goal. And, you know, that happens sometimes in hockey. But you could see that starting with their trip to Sweden, their game was rounding into form, and then it really clicked in. Then they exhaled.
Yeah.
And as we talked about, they went 3-6-1 in their final 10 before the season pause. Some of that was, you know, they added Goodrow and Coleman at the deadline, and, you know, who knows what would have happened if we hadn't had the season pause. The Lightning benefited from that little mini training camp before the bubble tournament because it gave Goodrow and Coleman a chance to have a camp. And also because they stayed in town, they really got to know their new teammates too, from whatever it was, March 12th to July, whenever it was that they reconvened. I mean, yeah, we were all kind of like isolating, but there were text chats and, you know, like they got to know their teammates. So in some weird way, you know, that pause may have helped the two players and Bogosian also arrive. But
It's true.
You know, the Lightning didn't have those guys come in and things didn't click right away. I think they would have eventually, but they definitely clicked when they got to Toronto for the bubble. And that line got formed with Gord, Coleman, and Goodrow, and they were aligned for that playoff year and then the whole next year.
It was magical. There's no doubt about that. Let me get to this.
Anyway,
partner.
just what you were saying, though, about how they're playing now, it reminds me of that stretch in December, January into February in 2019 into 2020.
That's fair. Tonight, enjoy some Reef Rum, smooth, versatile, and now pouring at Benchmark International Arena. Order a Tropical Wave or a Lightning Mule and taste why fans are switching. Reef Rum is a premium craft Florida local rum built on authenticity, quality, and easy drinkability. Ask for Reef Rum by name, go Bolts, and enjoy responsibly. All right, where do we want to go here? Let's get to some more questions because that's why we like it. This was a funny one. We didn't talk about this. Carl, somebody shot High Note's face on the Jordan logo and put it on a shirt.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about that. I've never seen that penalty called ever. And
I guess
a coach. Maybe I've seen it with a player, and maybe not even in a Lightning game, but I've seen it in the NHL. I've never seen a coach get called for a penalty like that.
You just can't interfere with the puck, right? I mean, that's what we found out with, I know Steve Carney tweeted it out.
I guess letter to the law, it's a penalty, but the puck clearly was not going out of play. They just didn't like that he reached up. In case it was going out of play, he reached up to prevent it from going out of play.
He also says, excuse me, if the Gord line stays healthy into the playoffs, just how great would that tool be? A line that can frustrate the tire op main lines, then your star lines can run with it and score.
That's the hope if they continue doing what they're doing through this regular season. Yes.
K-Bay says Holmberg and James continue to impress. Yeah. We're going to start asking that question. Do they give an award at the end internally? All teams do, basically best rookie. Lightning have had several guys come up this year.
Yeah.
Now, you could say to Stu, but his age.
He qualifies as a rookie, though.
He would qualify. James certainly is a guy, but
you think they give Holmberg a backpack?
That's funny. That is funny. They'd have to, though, right?
Yeah.
I'm surprised we haven't seen any shirts come out of this.
Yes.
Because I think you could have some fun with that. Chris says, loving the Gensel and James combination. I was glad the Coop made the change a few games ago, hoping Cirelli was held out after the Hagel shot just as precaution.
So, look, without knowing exactly what the deal is, the fact that he did come back in the game and then decided not to return for the third period is better than if he just missed the rest of the game. He felt well enough. He didn't feel great, clearly, but he felt well enough to continue playing. That may not mean a lot, but to me, at least, it means something. They didn't just shut him down the whole rest of the game.
Fair point. Let's get to King James, our favorite King James. I think the James Gensel-Gonsalves line has been deadly these last few games. Yep. I think all those guys not only are skilled, they're smart, and that's an interesting combination to have. They seem to know where to go on the ice when they're playing. I mean, Gonsalves makes the one play along the wall, steals the puck on the one goal, which was great to see. And I think that all complements each other, pretty well. So they found something there. And who would have thought that would have been a line before the season started? Nobody had that on their bingo card. No. Nobody. Paul says, with face-offs our only weakness right now, isn't there a coach out there who can help us with face-offs like Barb Underhill does for skating?
Lightning have a coach who helps on face-offs, Jeff Halpern, who is a very good face-off man.
And that's probably an unfair comparison, because when you're skating, you're really not competing against somebody else.
Yeah.
Somebody else has a say in that face-off circle. There's a lot of different factors. When the referee drops the puck, who's on the other side? Where are you taking the face-off? There's other factors outside of, are you a good centerman? Can you win face-offs? And so they're working on that every day when they have time. Correct? I mean,
yes.
They are dropping that puck, and there's techniques. They're breaking down film. I would agree with you in its totality that it is a problem. You and I have talked about, how do you solve that problem? It's one thing to identify what it is. People want to know, how are you going to solve it? Most people are looking at it and saying it's going to have to come internally for that improvement to happen. I would suggest going out and finding somebody, as long as they fit within the top 9 and top 12. And the way you get there is you probably have to give up some assets currently on this roster, and you've got to be cap compliant. That's a whole nother layer to this story, but it's one, if you feel that is a big enough roadblock that is going to prevent you from getting to where you want to go, you find a way to address it.
Yeah.
You do. You just do. That's your job as a GM. Julian has said that. I don't want to be the person that didn't do anything that prevents my team
and
from doing it.
He may look at addressing it. I just think there's an element here that is baked into the cake. They have all these lefties. The other team knows it. They're going to put those lefties on their weak side. And that's going to continue until the Lightning can find somebody who can win more faceoffs on their weak side, or find a righty who's reliable. Other than one of those two solutions, they're going to continue to struggle. But it's not because the players aren't capable of winning faceoffs. It has to do with where the faceoff is happening. So I know it's been a couple of years, but I will share a little story here. When I was writing Blind Squirrel, Noah, my protagonist, is great on faceoffs, right? Maybe not right. In case you haven't read the book, my protagonist, Noah, is great on faceoffs. He's a righty. So one of the people I talked to get some of the hockey stuff understood by me was Jeff Halpern.
Yeah.
And so there's a critical point in the novel where I have to have Noah lose a faceoff. So I'm like, how am I going to set it up? So it's kind of his fault, but it's not really his fault, right? And what Halpy said was, like if you put him on his weak side, it's more likely that he's going to lose a face-off.
Yeah.
So, of course, at that point, I had to like explain in the earlier chapters of the novel, what is a strong side face-off? What is a weak side face-off? As Noah is learning hockey as a kid and recognizes he has this skill, he has to learn the difference between a strong side face-off and a weak side face-off and then decide, how am I going to take weak side face-offs?
Sure.
So in my brain, I was like, I have to come up with something that makes this understandable for the reader and for my character. So when he's a kid, he's a baseball prodigy and he plays with his parents. His dad throws him pitches, he hits, and there are all these balls in the outfield when they finish. His mother was a track and field star in college. So they set up this game when they finish. They set up 2 baskets, and then he and his mother have a race in the outfield to see who can collect more baseballs. So a fun way to finish, right? And his mother always wins because he's like got the young energy, but she's strategic, right? And very, very smart and fast, right, too. So he can't beat her. She always finishes with more balls in the basket. So the way he thinks about it is, all right, on my strong side face-off, we call it the ball race. Like, it's like I'm in the ball race with somebody that I can beat. But on my weak side, you're throwing a 30-pound backpack on my back, and I have to do the ball race. And he's like, against my mother, there's no chance I would win. But against somebody else, I might, right? So that's how Noah processes it and decides, I'm not going to change the way I take face-offs. It was kind of the Bergeron playbook. Bergeron didn't change the way he took face-offs. Strong side, weak side, he took them the same way. Crosby, as we talked about, tries to win him on his forehand. Phil would try and win him on his forehand on his weak side. Noah decides, no, I'm just going to do it the same way. I'm going to win my fair share on my weak side. But against some players, it's like you're throwing a backpack. You're throwing a backpack on me and slowing me down. That's what it's like. So like the fan is like, how can they get better? Well, there's no taking off the backpack. On your weak side, you have a disadvantage. You are going to win some, but you're going to win less. I think it's safe to say there is not a face-off player out there who wins regularly more face-offs on his weak side than his strong side. But the Lightning can get better. This is where maybe the question is geared. They can get better, and maybe they have to get better at winning more weak side face-offs, whether that is, Andy said, tying up the stick, which is also something I put in the novel, is the opposing centerman can't beat Noah, right? So it's like, all right, let's tie up his stick. So I had to explain what that was too. 50-50s, which Phil talks about. A tie-up usually means the puck's laying there in the circle. Who's going to get it? So there are ways that you can maybe help your percentage a little bit. But at the end of the day, if you got a bunch of lefties and the other team is going to throw those lefties on their weak side, that other team is going to have an advantage. There's no way around it. That's just the reality of the situation. It's like in baseball, a left-handed hitter against a left-handed pitcher usually will have a disadvantage. That's why they bring in left-handed pitchers to pitch to left-handed hitters. A right-handed hitter will not have the same challenges against certain lefties. You know, the lefties with the big looping curveball that, ends up out of the strike zone. Very hard for a left-handed hitting player to hit a lefty. It's kind of the same thing. That's where the analytics, the advanced stats tell us, and it's not even advanced stats. I've explained why it is more challenging. You can't get the same leverage on the face-off on your weak side. So, the analytics tell us that if you can get a righty to take the draw on his strong side in the defensive zone, that's preferable, which is one reason why Coop tried Finley last night. Then they gave up a goal. So he didn't go back to it.
Vlad says, Olympic Games is serious threat to Tampa. Too many players were called. And in what condition will they return? That's always
you can take that one, Greg, because I know you feel strongly about
it's the risk you take. Players wanted it. The players wanted it. I don't know what else to say other than if it were my assets that were playing in something that wasn't for what my league represents, which is the Stanley Cup, I'd be holding my breath, particularly with how injuries have overtaken the sport this year. It feels like I think it's fair to point that out. Doesn't mean you shouldn't have the Olympics. Doesn't mean there's not a conversation there. But I think too much of this has been, I don't think enough of this conversation has been happening, and it's been more about how great it is to represent your country, which of course that's a great honor. But man, these are your assets. And if they get hurt, and we're talking about the Lightning having issues this year, staying healthy, it hasn't hurt them in the standings, but I'd be hesitant. I think there needs to be a bigger conversation around that. Logan says, yes, the Gord line makes good plays in shutdown mode, but the amount of time they just dump the puck back into the offensive zone is just insane to watch. So frustrating for the other team.
Yes. And they can score. I mean, they don't have the skill level of like a Kucherov and a Hagel and a Sorelli teaming up on that tying goal. But if you are in a tie game or they have the lead, the Lightning have the lead, like that's exactly what you want. I mean, late in the Pittsburgh game, which was a 1-1 game, I think it was actually after Malkin tied the game.
Yeah.
So now you're like, whatever. I mean, he tied it not like with 10 seconds left. I mean, the Penguins tied it with like 2 minutes left or whatever. So you get 2 minutes left. Got to get this game to overtime. Cannot blow this game. Who goes out there? Gord line. Cycle. Like a minute got killed. The Lightning were a minute closer to getting the game to overtime and no danger whatsoever because the puck was deep in the Pittsburgh end and the Penguins couldn't get it out. And, of course, if the Lightning have the lead, the other team needs to go on offense. They can't. Frustrating was the word the fan used. Yeah, very frustrating. Remember that play where Sam Steele swatted the puck toward Moser after the Stars iced it? I can't remember if the Gord line was out there. It may have been. But the Stars took back-to-back icings because they just couldn't get the puck out cleanly.
Right.
And Steele was like, are you kidding me? I got to stay on the ice. Shot the puck in frustration, Nick Moser skate. Moser looked by what did you just do? And he's like, sorry. But that's what Gord's line can do to the other team, especially when they need offense. It's like waiting in line at the DMV. It's like, I need to get going here. I got to wait in line here. I can't go on offense. We can't get out of our own end.
Can't get out of our own end.
No offense to the
fair.
DMV. I think they've improved the line waiting at the DMV. Although, in fairness, I haven't really been at the DMV in a while. My kids got their licenses, and that was a fairly smooth process. But you know what I mean. You want to get somewhere, and you can't get there because you got to wait, and you got to check a box first. Get out of our own end. You can't do it.
E-Rock says, just my opinion, but I think Lilleberg sits and Radish stays when everyone is healthy. I've given my opinion on that for those of you who haven't heard it. This is assuming everybody's healthy and they just go 12-6. I think Destou's the one that stays. I think Carlisle, Crozier, and Lilleberg are the ones that sit. And I think you probably find a way strategically to get them in here and there. Of course, you could go 11-7. I just don't think Destou is somebody that sits. And Radish has already answered questions about where he is in this lineup. He's part of your best defense pairing with J.J. Moser. Mm-hmm. You're not sitting him. Those are your 6.
I think the more interesting question as it relates to Radish, are we going to reach a point, if Radish's play stays where it is, are we going to reach a point where Julian gets enough answers to whatever questions he has that he decides to extend Radish? Because at the fireside chat, he's like, the sample size is a little too small for me right now to get an idea of. I mean, he's not saying I don't want to pay Darren Radish.
I think that's
what
a fair
he's saying
question.
is I need a bigger sample size to understand what I need to offer him.
They may just
will we get there? Will we get there?
They just may have to deal with that in the off season.
They may, and that's Julian's choice to win.
And you just roll the dice.
Yeah.
You just roll the dice. I mean, you're not trading him. You're just not. I mean, you're trying to win now. Darren Radish gives you some of the best opportunities to do that. I think the question is, if you were to do it in season, what does that number look like? And do you just want to risk it and say, we'll handle it in the off season before you hit free agency, and let's see if we can come to that number? Probably going to have a hometown discount.
Yeah.
I don't think they can pay him. When you go to free agency, people overpay. the Lightning are going to have to get a hometown discount off that.
Mm-hmm.
But Darren Radish may not want that.
He may not. I'm looking at his numbers right now. I mean, assuming that nothing major changes, like he's able to play the second half of the year, what's remaining in the second half of the year, assuming his role doesn't change, he's still playing on the first power play unit. He's going to finish for sure in the top 10 among defensemen in scoring, and possibly in the top 5.
I mean, there you go.
I mean, that is...
There you go. Who had, again...
Top 5. And I mean, he didn't really have anything going in the first month plus of the regular season. He started from a farther back point than these other guys.
Who had that at the beginning of the year? I mean, this is the other thing. People want to know why the Lightning are where they are right now. Partner, understand how many players are exceeding expectations. Who had Moser approaching plus 40?
Mm-hmm.
Who had Radish in the top 10 in scoring when it comes to defensemen? Who had Dominic James playing in a top 6? Who had DeStu coming in and playing the way he has? Nobody.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you have the season you're having. I mean, it just really is that simple. All right, so tomorrow we will be back at it. Power Lunch on Lightning Radio.
Power Lunch.
And then...
team heading to Chicago.
Yeah.
I'm going to be home for these next 2 road games, and the Lightning don't have another road game until after the Olympics. And my wife is doing very well, too.
Good.
In case some of the fans have asked. So
yeah.
She had her follow-up appointment yesterday. All good. Just takes time. After surgery, you're kind of limited in they tell you to be limited. Some people don't want to be limited, and then you have a setback. So we're going to make sure that she takes it nice and slow. And again, thanks to the Lightning for letting me stay back for these few road games.
For sure. We know that's important. Family first.
Yeah.
As we always say. We'll do it again tomorrow. And thank you, Steve Versnick and Jared Johnson, as always, for getting us on the air. Thanks to you for listening. We appreciate it. I'm Greg Linnelli. You've been listening to Power Lunch on Lightning Radio.